What's up, guys? Let's talk about this lens, the 7 Artisans 35 F0.95 lens. Well, let's remove the lens cap because this is the most fun part of this lens. No, I'm just kidding. But to be honest, and the reason for that is that this lens cap doesn't hold on to the lens like most lens caps do. You just slide it onto the lens and that's it. It's a lot of fun, trust me. But obviously, that is not the main reason why this lens is interesting. Of course, it's the price and the numbers, and especially the F number. F0.95 for around $250. That's a great price, right? And I was really skeptical, and I was also quite amazed. Now, before we get into all of the details that I have right here, disclaimer, I got this lens for free. And even though I got this lens for free, you will get my honest review on what this lens can do and what it can't do. And in this video, you will get some technical facts, you will get my personal impressions, and we'll have a look at a test chart. And of course, we're gonna have a look at some real life photos that I took with this lens. So let's talk about build quality. This lens is one of the most well-built lenses that I have ever touched. Now, that might sound like a little bit too much, but it's true. The lens is all metal. All the rings run very, very smooth. And as I said, even the lens cap is very well made. And it's a lot of fun, again, to put the lens cap on and off. So very well built lens, very smooth. Everything is just well done. So talking about build quality, there is nothing to complain about. Unless you don't like a clickless aperture ring, which is really something that you need to get used to. And a lot of people will never get used to a clickless aperture adjustment ring. Is that even a word? It took me some time to get used to it, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Especially for people doing video, this is a great feature. And while talking about aperture, the aperture can be adjusted from 0.95 all the way to f16. And once you get in the area of f8, 11, 16, it's pretty hard to distinguish and to tell what aperture you're in at the moment. Let me show you what I'm talking about. And I don't know if that's even a problem, because you can tell by the depth of field that you get if you got the right f-stop. So anyway, just something worth telling you. The lens itself weighs 370 grams and has a 52mm filter thread. And one more thing about the aperture, there are 12 aperture blades which help creating a really round shaped aperture for really smooth bokeh. Bokeh? You know, out of focus areas. Now I know that most of you, probably all of you, are really excited about the wide aperture, especially since it starts with a 0. So 0.95 gives you a really, really shallow depth of field. Now that's great for some kind of photos, but you should be aware that it's not that easy to work with it because you're using a manual lens. And shooting that wide open on a manual lens means that you have to focus really, really precisely. And it's not that easy, and it's something that you probably will have to learn and practice, which also means that you will probably get some photos that are not in focus. So be prepared for that. But the photos that you will get in focus are just amazing. So while look and feel and numbers are important when reviewing a lens, the most important thing when looking at a lens and taking photos with a lens is image quality, right? I mean, some of you might take more photos of their equipment than with their equipment, but you know what I'm talking about. And of course, we're gonna have a look at image quality in detail right now. Now, as I told you, I have been very skeptical about this lens because most of my lenses are way more expensive than this one. So how good can the image quality actually be? Now, it was much, much better than I expected. So the lens really surprised me in that regard as well. So great build quality and not great, but very good, very solid image quality. Now, what does that mean? That means that you get the obvious, well, flaws of any lens with this lens, and you get them a little bit more visible than with more expensive lenses. That means for the most part, chromatic aberrations and loss of sharpness in the corners. Now, that's not bad and it's not excessive, but it's visible. Now, it's more visible in a test chart than in real life images, but it's there and it's something that you have to be aware of. So it's not the greatest, sharpest lens that you can get, but for the price, it's amazing. So let's have a look at the test chart so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, here we go. As you can see, here are the photos of my test chart. And I have written down the F number that each photo has been taken with. And while I did that, I noticed that I missed a photo at f5.6 and f11. But anyway, you can still see what's going on with this lens. So let's start in the image center. The sharpness is already really good, but we do see some chromatic aberration. The chromatic aberration starts to disappear once we stop down the lens a little bit. And I would say that starting at f2 or f2.8, the chromatic aberration is pretty much gone. Next, let's have a look at the image corners. And I was pretty surprised to see that there is pretty much no vignetting in the corners. Well, vignetting is always in the corners, but you know what I mean. But wide open, the sharpness in the corners isn't quite amazing, right? But it starts to get pretty good once we stop down a little bit. And to be honest, that is something that I only noticed when looking at the test chart. In real life images, there was not really a problem with image sharpness in the corners. Time for a conclusion and an answer to the question, who is this lens for? I would say this lens is for everybody who loves to play with wide open, really wide open apertures like f0.95. It's for people that love portrait photography or still life photography. It's not so for street photography. It's not for action or sports because it's just not the way this works, okay? You have to focus manually. It takes time and patience, and you need to slow down when working with a manual lens. It's also great for people that work this way. So if you're someone that likes to work slowly and more thoughtful and take the time to focus and maybe use the magnification to check the focus, you're gonna get a great lens for a good price. I mean, it's hard to not recommend this lens. And I have also showed you its flaws, and I'm really convinced, and that's the way that I experienced this lens, that you will not see these flaws in real life images. You can see it on a test chart, you can see it when you compare the lens to another lens, but that's not the way that I work. And a great photo is not a great photo because you took it with the best lens and the best image quality. I mean, it's important to get the best image quality or a good image quality. And that's what this lens gives you. So, great value, great price, great look and feel, great build quality, and good image quality. Pretty good image quality. Not excellent, not the best out there, but very good for the price. These are my thoughts on the 7 Artisans 35mm F0.95 lens. Let me hear in the comments what you think about this lens. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and talk to you next time. Goodbye. See you. I'm out. Gotta put the lens cap on. Listen, listen. Silence. Nothing.